Do you ever wonder what kind of person would do something so heinous they're sentenced to life in prison, or even the death penalty? How does someone go from an everyday citizen to a cold-blooded killer? Well, for some people, the answer lies in their past. When you hear the word trauma, you might think of a car accident, a natural disaster, or a serious illness. But childhood trauma encompasses any negative experience that deeply affects a child's emotional well-being. And research shows that many serial killers had very difficult childhoods. In fact, 74% of serial killers experienced some form of psychological abuse growing up. This figure is much higher than in the general population. Let's take a closer look at how childhood trauma turns an ordinary person into a ruthless killer. Emotional regulation issues. Imagine having an intense, overwhelming feeling, but not knowing how to handle it. That's what emotional regulation is like for most people without severe conditions. We all feel emotions like anger, sadness, fear, and joy every day, but we learn to manage them. We might take a deep breath when we're angry to avoid saying something we'll regret. Or we might take some time alone to process our grief. But for those with emotional dysregulation, it's a whole different story. They might lash out, break down, or shut down completely. And this struggle with emotions can be a stepping stone toward violent behavior, especially if it stems from childhood trauma. Many serial killers have reported experiencing extreme psychological abuse as children, which can lead to emotional regulation problems. One reason is learned helplessness. Growing up in a traumatic environment can make anyone feel powerless. Children are entirely dependent on their caregivers for their basic needs, like food, clothing, and safety. So, if their caregivers are abusive, these kids learn to comply to survive. This learned helplessness can follow them into adulthood and make it hard for them to control their emotions. Without healthy coping mechanisms, those with learned helplessness might lash out violently when they feel overwhelmed. Another reason is fear of abandonment. If a child has been abandoned or neglected, they might develop a strong fear of abandonment. As they grow up, this fear could turn into an intense need for control. The fear that their loved ones will leave them can drive them to possessive and jealous behaviors. This can be especially problematic in romantic relationships. If their partner does something they don't like, they might feel threatened and react violently. For example, Ted Bundy, who was known for kidnapping and murdering young women, reportedly had a fear of abandonment stemming from his mother leaving him and his siblings when he was just 3 years old. This fear may have contributed to his controlling and violent behavior. But it's not just fear of abandonment. Some serial killers also grapple with unresolved grief. Experiencing a significant loss, like the death of a parent or sibling, can be traumatic. If this happens early on in a child's life, they might not have the emotional tools to process their grief. Instead, they could repress it. This bottled-up grief might resurface later in life, manifesting as anger or violent behavior. John Wayne Gacy, who was convicted of killing at least 33 young men and boys, had an older brother who died when John was just 2 years old. While the impact of this loss on Gacy's behavior is debated, some experts believe it may have contributed to his violent tendencies. A broken bond. Moving on to another factor, let's talk about the parent-child bond. A strong parent-child relationship is crucial for a child's development. It helps them develop a sense of security and trust, which are essential for forming healthy relationships later in life. But if the parent is abusive, the bond between them can be broken, leading to what's known as reactive attachment disorder. Children with this condition have trouble forming emotional attachments and might not respond to other people as emotions appropriately. They might become detached and struggle with empathy. These challenges can spill over into adulthood, making it harder for individuals to form and maintain relationships. This lack of connection could contribute to feelings of isolation and alienation. potentially pushing someone toward extreme actions. Furthermore, there's something called the double bind. This refers to a situation where a child is conflicted between their love for their parent and their fear of their parent. This tension can be particularly damaging if the parent is abusive. The child might love their parent despite the abuse because they might be the only source of love and attention in their life. This conflict can create a lot of stress for the child, leading to anxiety and other mental health issues. Jeffrey Dahmer, who committed horrific crimes including murder, dismemberment, and cannibalism, reportedly had a difficult relationship with his father. His parents divorced when he was just 14 years old, and his father was abusive towards both him and his mother. This difficult relationship might have played a role in Dahmer's later violent behavior. Neglect and physical abuse. Beyond emotional issues, many serial killers have histories of neglect and physical abuse. Neglect can take many forms, from not providing for a child's basic needs to emotional unavailability. When a parent neglects their child, it can create a sense of abandonment and worthlessness in the child. This can lead to low self-esteem and a lack of empathy, traits often seen in serial killers. On the other hand, physical abuse is more direct. It can involve hitting, beating, or any other form of physical harm. This can be extremely damaging to a child's emotional and psychological development. It can create an environment of fear and trauma, leading to post-traumatic stress disorder and other mental health issues. Both neglect and physical abuse are more likely to happen in families with other risk factors like poverty, substance abuse, or other forms of violence. All these factors combined can create a perfect storm that can push a child toward a life of crime. It's important to note that while these childhood experiences can increase the likelihood of violent behavior, they don't directly cause it. Many people experience trauma and abuse during childhood, but only a small percentage go on to commit violent crimes. It's also possible to overcome these challenges with the right support and resources. Early exposure to violence. Lastly, let's discuss early exposure to violence. This can include witnessing violence in the home or community, or being the victim of bullying or assault. Seeing violence firsthand can desensitize a child to it, making it seem like a normal way to solve problems. This can be particularly damaging if the child doesn't get any support or help in processing what they've seen. Over time, this can warp their view of violence and make them more likely to use it themselves. For example, being exposed to domestic violence can have a profound impact on a child's development. They might see their parent being harmed and feel helpless to stop it. This helplessness can turn into anger and resentment, leading to violent tendencies later in life. Similarly, if a child grows up in a community with high levels of violence, they might become accustomed to it. They might see it as a normal part of everyday life, which can make it easier for them to justify violent behavior. All these factors paint a picture of how childhood trauma can impact a person's behavior in adulthood. While these experiences don't excuse violent behavior, they do offer an explanation for why some people resort to extreme measures. It's a reminder of the importance of addressing trauma and mental health issues early on, providing children with the support and resources they need to develop into emotionally healthy adults. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking it and sharing it with others who might find it valuable too. Your support means a lot. Don't forget to subscribe for more informative content. Take care, and see you in the next video.